What is up, world? It's your boy Tanh, and you are listening to the Wonton Wealth Podcast. Here, I'm going to unravel anything and everything commercial real estate related. And more importantly, we're going to add abundant value. So if you're ready, buckle up your eardrums. Welcome back, people. Today we are going to go through the part 3 of the due diligence phase. We're going to cover some serious ground, so grab your coffee, grab your alcohol, whatever the hell you're into, and let's get to it. The first thing I want to talk about is the attorney lease reviews. Within your little checklist of items that you're asking from the seller, hopefully you're asking them for leases and all the amendments that are coming with the leases. Well, first things first, you're actually going to want to run through these leases to make sure you understand the relationship between the landlord and the tenant with each and every tenant. But you're also going to want to send the leases over to the attorneys. You're going to want the attorneys to do a thorough review of these bad boys because the devil's in the details. And the attorney, they're going to be able to spot any sneaky clauses that's going to trip you up now and or later way better than you can. When you're looking at the lease review, you're going to want to keep an eye out for the effective date. This is going to tell you when the lease starts, the expiration date, which is when the lease is going to end, any renewal terms that the tenants have, and when they're able to exercise that option. If it's a net lease, any CAM, taxes, and insurance that the tenants are going to be responsible for. Speaking of responsibilities, it should also highlight what the landlord's responsibilities are and what the tenant's responsibilities are. It should also highlight if there are any tenant allowance. Are there any financial perks that the owners or the landlord has given to the tenant? Are there any early termination clauses? What can the tenant do and what can't they do? Or any clauses within the leases that actually stand out and should raise a concern for either party. The benefit of lease reviews is that it's going to give you a good snapshot of what each lease says. It's going to provide you a quick reference for future ownership, which saves you time and headaches from actually having to run through every single lease every single time when something comes up. But in addition, it's also going to allow the attorneys to actually look at those leases for you in order to give you any red flags well before you own the property. Another thing that's important within the due diligence phase is the preliminary title report. As soon as you've signed your PSA, you want to request this report. It's going to reveal the property's ownership, the legal description, any liens, any easements, any encroachments that are on the property. Think of it as a property's resume. So this thing is probably going to take around 3 to 4 days, but if it uncovers any issues, it's probably going to take you several weeks to several months in order to get it taken care of. So if the deal is still awesome, when you uncover some of these items, you want to take care of these items as soon as possible. But on the title report, what you want to look for is you want to verify that the seller's name matches what's on the purchase and sale agreement. Is the property under foreclosure? Because that's obviously a red flag. Are there any easements or encroachments that allow other people to use part of your property? You want to know this shit. Check whether there are any liens on the property, because if you take it over, that's something you're going to have to figure out. Once again, if there's any legal bullshit that's with the property, you want to know those before you go into the property, because everything could be inherited to you. Once again, you want to have your attorney take a look at this report, cross-checking it with the survey and making sure that your interests are protected. If something comes up and you don't like it, you obviously want them to speak up or forever hold your peace. This is where you have them prepare a title and survey objection letter. Once your attorney reviews the title and the survey items, they're going to prepare this letter for you if there are any defects. And you obviously want to share this letter with everyone that's involved, your broker, the seller, your title company, and even the surveyor. And you want to do this well before the due diligence period expires in order to ensure a timely resolution. Now, we also want to talk about financing because money talks. When you're in the due diligence, you're going to want to get your bank involved because they're going to have to order a lot of third-party reports. They're going to want to get to know the property as well. So once you are at the stage where you know you're going to move forward, you have enough information that tells you, yes, this deal is a screaming deal. I'm going to take it down regardless of all the bullshit that's going on with it. Either way, with whatever lender you go with, actually, let's back up. You should probably shop around for a couple lenders and maybe have a broker that's on your team as well in order to shop rates and terms, pit them against each other sometimes. Once you get a lender, they're going to ask you for a shit ton of documents. A lot of these documents are going to be some of the documents that you've requested from the owners. But for you personally, they're also going to request a lot of documents from you. If you're the KP, if you are, one of the guarantors, etc. They're going to want to know your financial documents, your bank statements, the whole fucking nine. They're going to know you better than you know yourself. But on the lender side, aside from all the financials that they need from you to make sure you're a credit-worthy borrower, within the third-party reports, they're going to be looking at a survey. They're going to make sure that they get an inspection report. They're going to make sure they're getting an environmental report if necessary. A lot of these are going to take a lot of time, right? They're probably also going to want an appraisal, obviously, to make sure that they're lending on a property that's worth what it's stated as. And lastly, once you gather all your intel within the due diligence period, your last step is to pretty much negotiate, right? You're going to organize all your shit, put it in a neat little package, and then negotiate it, right? So a couple things here. You want to look for the derogatory due diligence items, any physical or financial issues that are found during the due diligence. You want to look for a monetary value that you can assign to each physical issue with the property. Might as well assign a cost to the loss in rent if there are any financial issues, or the loss in income, I should say, with the financial issues. You want to sum up all these costs to determine the final cumulative financial impact that all this shit that you found is going to have on the price and or your return on investment with the property. So after you get that done, you're going to have to figure out a maximum acceptable price that you're willing to take with all of these defects or accounting for all of these defects. Then you want to approach the seller and negotiate. Obviously you want to compliment him. You don't want to shit on him or tell him that this property is just complete dog shit or whatever the hell it may be. You want to present it with facts, right? If you have the inspection report, if you have all these numbers that you found, you lay it on them. Send it him here. Look, listen, you told me this, but the property actually needs this. You told me that, but it's actually going to be like this. Whatever it may be, just make sure you have data to back up your negotiation play. If needed, you can bring your team members in. You can bring your GC in. You can bring your brokers in. Let them explain it. Let them fight on your behalf. Remember, your negotiation is going to go back and forth a little bit. Maybe they're not going to like your final amount. Maybe you're asking for $1.5 million reduction. And maybe the seller's like, no, you know what? Fuck you. I'm just going to walk away. Or they might be cool. Be like, all right, you know what? Maybe I'll give you half of that. I'll meet you in the middle, or I'll give you 800,000, whatever that number may be. Once you reach a price that you are both in agreement on, that is when you're going to probably amend the purchase price on your purchase contract, and you're going to have to schedule a closing. The seller will only release the deed upon receiving your final payment. So you're going to have to arrange the necessary funds beforehand. So if you have all the cash to bring as a down payment with the bank loan, great. If you're paying it for all cash, great. You're good. However, if you're raising capital, this is a whole nother scenario that you're going to have to look into in order to get the necessary funds for the payment. I'll talk about raising capital in a future episode, but for today's purposes, you have to get your dollars right in order to get it to escrow. Once you set a closing day, everybody is going to meet during that day. You're going to have the money transferred to the account that day, whether it be a wire, whether it be a check, whatever. Talk to your title company. They might accept some other form of payment that I don't know about. Who knows? It's the 21st century. Everybody's going to meet. They're going to sign the necessary paperwork that the title company is going to organize for you. Be aware and be prepared that you might run into some delays due to some bullshit legal issues or, property insurance not meeting lender requirements or whatever the hell. That's why you have extensions, right? And hopefully you got all that shit squared away before you scheduled a closing date. But keep in mind, sometimes you might run in that shit when you're at the closing table and you might have to come back again another day. As far as closing goes, I have a value tip for you guys. You guys want to aim to close between, the beginning of the month, ideally somewhere around the 2nd or the 4th, depending on when the rents come in for that particular property, because you'll get more of a prorated monthly income. And who doesn't like that extra moolah in the pocket? You know what I mean? And that is a wrap for today's episode. That is part 3 of the due diligence phase. Hopefully throughout the 3 episodes, you guys got a good feel for what due diligence is going to look like. Remember, I have a more comprehensive approach within my book, so check that out. And I will see you guys again next week. And that's a wrap. If you've made it this far, that means you've listened to the entire episode, so thank you. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please leave a review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening from. And if you've learned something or found it useful, share it with one of your homies. And if you want to get in touch with me, I'm pretty active on IG. My handle is pro_TANH. Reach out, let me know what you liked, what you didn't like, or what you want to hear about in the future. I'm here to tailor this to you. Until next time.